all electronic devices as a courtesy to those in attendance. Thank you. This is the 5:30 p.m. study session, SS-1, progress report on the proposed Lacey Ranch 156-acre development project outside the city urban growth boundary. Mr. Brandt.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Steve Brandt, City Planner. This is an informational item only. We're not asking for you to make any decisions this evening, but we wanted to bring this back to you. This is a project that the staff's been working with the developer on for a while, and we're getting close to the point where we're going to be doing some things, getting ready to put out the EIR for public review. So I wanted to just go through that process so you're aware of it in case anybody asks you on the street, what's going on, how does this work? Because frankly, it's been a long time since Lemoore has done an environmental impact report on any project. So just want to give you a refresher. So an environmental impact report is the highest level CEQA document that you do. And we're requiring this one because a portion of the project is outside of the area that was covered in your general plan. So the general plan amendment that will be before you as part of this project will actually expand the area of the planned area of the city. And so doing that requires us to do an environmental impact report or an EIR. It's not really as scary as it sounds. It's a fairly large document. The applicants has hired a consultant to prepare that document, and then they're pretty close to submitting it to us as staff. We're going to peer review the document, make sure that we're okay with everything that it says because it is the city's document. And once we're satisfied with it, then it will go out for a public review period. It's a 45-day review period where we have notices that it's out for review. We send it to the state, and they then send it out to all of the state agencies that want to review it. We'll also send it to local agencies. We'll send it to the county, other things. So during that 45 days, anyone can send in a written letter commenting on the EIR. They can tell us that there's additional information they want to add, that there's something that they don't think was done quite right. And all of those comments will then come back to us, and then we will respond to each of those comments in writing. And then the comments, along with our responses, along with the original version, will all be packaged up as the final EIR. And that is what will then come to you for your review of the project. So the entire process is laid out in state law. It's pretty clear on how it needs to happen, and yeah, we're getting really close to ready to do it. So I wanted to see if you had any questions about the process. Not really here to debate the project tonight itself, but and I think the applicant wanted to address you as well.
It's all right.
Good evening. Mr. Mayor, nice to see you again. Jeff Roberts on behalf of the Assini Group. Our business address is 1396 West Herndon in the city of Fresno. New council members, we have not met before, but I'm very happy to be here, and I appreciate the time that the staff has allowed us to make a presentation here this evening. Reina Reyes is with me this evening, also with the Assini Group, and she has been working on this project for the past year or so in conjunction with us and staff. And before I begin to talk about the project, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I want to thank your staff. We've been working on this about 2.5 years, and Judy Hallwell has been instrumental in helping us through this. Frank Rivera, who's in the audience. I don't know if Amanda is here this evening. Amanda Champion, and your city manager, Nathan Olson, has been helping us guide us through this process for the the entire time we've been working on the Lacey Ranch project. So we appreciate their support. We appreciate QK. Steve Brandt has been helping us all along, and Jeff Coward, who's been helping on public works issues. So I'd like to introduce you to the Lacey Ranch project. I know, Mr. Mayor, you've heard about the project in the past. Some of the members of the council have not. Councilmember Matthews, you and I have talked briefly about it. So the Lacey Ranch project is envisioned to be a 156-acre master planned community. It'll be located north of the existing city limits at the intersection, what would be the southeast corner of the intersection of Lemoore Avenue and Lacey Boulevard. And a portion of this land, about half of it's already in your sphere of influence and has been for years, since 2008, I believe is the date the general plan put it in the sphere. And half of it is not. And so it's an interesting process that we've got to go through. And as Steve has told you, it's a little more complicated in your standard residential project. Our proposal will consist of single family homes and multifamily homes, parks and trails, ponding basin, and a lot of other amenities as we see them for a master plan project that will be one unit as we bring it back to you, hopefully later this year. The project applications include, Mr. Brandt talked about an EIR, the Environmental Impact Report. There is a general plan amendment that we have to process, a rezoning or pre-zoning when a property isn't annexed. You actually call it pre-zoning. There's a modification to the sphere of influence that we do through LAFCO. We will be annexing the entire 156 acres to the city of Lemoore. We have a tentative subdivision map, which will be a detailed layout of where every lot is, where every trail is, where every park is. There's a major site plan review, which is essentially the master plan, if you will. We have to cancel a Williamson Act contract that's been on the property since 1982. And then, of course, the EIR. So that entire package will be back before this council, we hope later this year. I'd like to give you a little bit of a timeline so you know what we've been doing for the last couple of years and what are some of the key elements that we've discussed with staff. So we purchased the property in April of 2019, immediately started discussions with Judy and staff about what we would like to do with the property and what the city would like to see on the property. We made an informational presentation to this council on July of 2019, a little less than 2 years ago. And we started working hard on the applications. In October, we actually filed all the applications, October of 2019 with the city. And then a month later, we held our first neighborhood meeting, which consisted of about 40 people in attendance. And it was at Meadow Lane School, just south of the project site. We got a lot of good input that night, and I would say a lot of good support for the idea of planning the property. Some of the folks in the area were tired of the agriculture and the dust and the things that go along with ag, and others wanted to see new homes as a good buffer to the north. And so we took all that into effect. We started our special studies that go along with the environmental impact report. We held in the next year, in 2020, we held what's called the public scoping session here in this room. It's actually the first public meeting that had been held where anyone could call in and participate during the COVID times. But the EIR scoping session is when that EIR consultant hears input and makes sure that they've got their plan for this EIR or the scope of the work they have to do correct. And that happened in September of 2020. Another informational presentation was made by staff in October, a month later. And then work has been continuing on the EIR since then. We have a presentation here tonight, this brief informational presentation, and we hope to do one we will be doing one next week at the Planning Commission. And this will be the first time that Lacey Ranch has ever been discussed at the Planning Commission. So the next issues that we have to talk about are what's our best guess on the timing and what are some of the issues that are ahead of us. We've got a lot behind us, but we've still got a lot of work to do. So our best guess is that the draft EIR, the Environmental Impact Report, will be completed by the consultant, Crawford and Bowen, who are out of Visalia. That'll be done about the end of this month, and it'll come over to Steve and to staff for their peer review, and any adjustments that are needed to be made will be talked about at that time. We hope to have, or I should say there will be that 45-day comment period. And during that comment period, we hope to have some additional neighborhood meetings. We kind of like doing them, and we've been restricted because of COVID. We couldn't have gatherings, so our hope is that during that 45-day period, we'll be making good use of the time and getting the word out about the project. If the response to comments doesn't take too long and they're not too onerous, and all of us that are in the EIR business kind of know what these things are, if they're supportive and generally not too difficult, we expect to be at the Planning Commission in November, and I'm saying November-ish of this year, and that would put us at the council either later in November or early December of this year. And that will be all the land use applications, the Williamson Act cancellation, and the initiation of the annexation process to LAFCO, Local Agency Formation Commission. So, as you're all aware, any decision about the sphere of influence or annexation goes to a different body, to the Local Agency Formation Commission, and then they actually vote on that process as well. We can talk about that tonight, and I know your staff can also. So we hope to be done, I'll say in the first quarter of 2022. That's our desire, is to be through all the paperwork processes by that time. I mentioned we want to have more neighborhood meetings to kind of get the word out and take input and ideas, and certainly share our vision for Lacey Ranch. We've got to have continuing discussions with the educational community. We have met with Lemoore Union High School folks and the elementary school and the high school district as well. We need to have a meeting with West Hills College, and I have met Kristen Clark, the chancellor, before, and would like to re-engage specifically on this project, but we've been kind of, in the COVID times here, we've been kind of restricted. So we look forward to that. We look forward to making presentations to special interest groups or civic groups. And we've joined the Chamber of Commerce, and we've asked for help. And again, we've kind of been held back until now. So we're anxious to get going on that. So Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we do appreciate the time here tonight just to talk briefly about the project. We would be happy to answer questions that you might have, and we look forward to coming to public hearing on this project. We're pretty proud of the work we've done with staff. We think we've fine-tuned the design to where it fits all the city standards, and we're really looking forward to making those presentations. So if you have any questions, that's why we're here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
How many homes do you anticipate adding?
Okay.
How many more families?
Sure. So the tentative tract map that's been filed with the city shows 547 single-family lots and multifamily areas that would accommodate 204 multifamily units. So about 751 is what's shown on the map today, and what's actually being studied in the EIR. Okay.
So I just, I'm not sure I have the right map.
I don't think I do either.
That's
I
from.
was looking at our agenda and the map I had.
25-24-05?
Yes.
Yeah, that's for regular session tonight. That is a map for one of the public hearings for one.
Another project, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I was looking at that in
Yeah,
my packet, and I thought, what's this about?
I've got a map I could pass around. It's pretty good scale.
I'm sorry, I thought I did the same thing. I was like,
Is
We're
it-
gonna stack them tight there.
I guess,
Council members.
no more 800-foot lots. Huh?
So the map I just submitted is the same one that's being reviewed by staff. It's a 3-page map. There's a cover sheet on the front, and then the more detailed sheets are broken into pages 2 and 3. And kind of the property splits along east-west road that's proposed. It was actually envisioned by staff quite a long time ago, but we're trying to implement that and put it exactly where it needs to be to provide both access, sewer water service, storm drain service, and the trail.
Is this most of the Carrero property?
I'm sorry,
Is this the Carrero property then?
Carrell?
No.
I'm not familiar with that name.
No, this is the property, so it would be just north. It's basically between, is it Blunt? Is that the last word there? No, what's the last word?
Glendale.
Glendale was the-
No, no, this map threw me all, I'm looking at
No,
it for
this is-
you.
this
I know
is
where you're
north
at
of
now.
town,
Okay,
Lemoore Avenue and Glendale.
gotcha.
This property wraps around your new water treatment facility.
Treatment
there,
facility,
Yeah.
right.
on the north and to the east of it.
This is the first project you've done in Lemoore,
It is.
right?
Yeah, the Assimi Group is, this is a new venture for us.
Good. Well, you came to the right town.
Well, thank you very much.
Good.
We appreciate the warm welcome. We've been coming here for a while, so we appreciate it.
Good.
Really do enjoy working with staff on this.
If we were to compare the lot sizes that you have on this tentative map with some of your developments in the Clovis area, would they be comparable?
So I'll run, so the answer is absolutely yes,
Okay.
but I'll run down just a breakdown that we have. We have 547 single-family lots. We have 164, what I would call compact lots, which average 4,500 square feet in size. Those are the smallest lots. Then we have the medium-sized lots, 6,500 average size, 310 of those. And then we have an estate lot area with 9,500 square foot average size. Those lots, though, you should know our smallest lot is 4,160 square feet. The largest is over 19,000 square feet. It's a big lot up in the
It's in the
northeast
corner, yeah. I saw that.
So we've tried to have a range of lot sizes, and yes, they're very comparable with market in Clovis or Fresno, but Clovis is a good example.
And as far as the city's requirement of entering, getting away from our landscape lighting old approach to our new approach.
Yeah.
You guys are
It's a PMF.
the PMF.
Yeah, we're already, in fact, Raina is already working with Amanda on that process.
Super. That's good.
Now, sheet two, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm done.
Sheet two is the single family, sheet three is the multi,
It actually, the southerly sheet, I think it's sheet 3,
yeah.
shows multi and single family.
Oh, okay,
And then
it's-
sheet 2 is all single family that wraps around that park in the center.
Okay, yeah.
How big is that park?
4 point something acres.
So it's a big one.
Yeah, it's
That's a
good
big, that's
size.
a big one.
Yeah. Well, we want,
It's good.
we've been working with staff on having a kind of a central open space feature. And that's obviously right in the middle of the project. And I think it's going to be attractive to everybody in the community. It's a public park, so it's not HOA or anything.
So just a comparison, Nathan, how big is, it's not the city park no more, but it's the Veterans Park now. How big is that park?
20 acres?
Yes.
I'll dig that up.
Okay, and so this is also, Nathan, can you turn the volume down just a little tiny bit too? It's, this is gonna be done in phases.
Yes.
And so is sheet 2 or 3 is, which phase where would you start at?
So where we would start is sheet 3, the southerly portion that's adjacent to the existing water treatment facility in the residential. And we would start, I'd like to say both those phases at the same time, but they're a little different in terms of marketing. You've got the multifamily over on the west side, and you've got single family more on the east. But that street to the north, and I forget what we call it on the map. I think it's probably road something, but the east-west street, the park is on the north side of it. And the idea is to get the park in as soon as we can. The park is good. It shows future stability for the neighborhood. It shows the landscape treatment and is the major amenity of the project. So that would be early on in the process.
Yeah, because I've actually been watching this with Ms. Hallwell, and I know that you guys' maps have changed a few times, and
Mhm.
if I remember correctly, the park, it was gonna take that entire block in the initially, wasn't it? Or
Right. And what we did is we've made that a little smaller and put other parks in the corner. You know,
Oh, okay, that's right. I see the one
Yeah.
up there in the northeast corner.
and there's one down in
Yes,
the
Oh, and
south.
then there's
as
one
well.
down on the south. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we've taken the same acreage. So your city general plan has a required acreage for parks. So we've taken that and broken it into, I think there's 4 park there is 4 park locations instead of just the one.
And so it looks like the larger lots are in that northeast corner, that one cul-de-sac over there. Those look to be the largest lots.
Correct.
On the northeast side?
Yeah, the northeast.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, north,
on the
northeast.
sheet
Yeah,
two.
it looks like that cul-de-sac street T.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Marissa, that one.
The area directly across from where Mr. Lyons is talking about, is that a park as well, that open area?
Looks like a
Or
baseball field.
Yep, I think that is
Yes.
a park.
It's a
Yes.
park.
And if that's a lot,
You want 2 of them? You want 2
I'll
of them?
start the bid right now.
You can have it.
Mayor Lyons.
Yeah.
Veterans Park is just short of 4 acres.
Okay, so this one would be just a touch
Comparable.
bigger.
Touch bigger.
That's good.
Yes, it is.
Just another question or two that came to mind. You know, in this last year, we've all had to change our mode of operation
Mhm.
significantly. And so how about the amenities inside the homes? Have you done some internal designs to adjust to some of that in terms of workspace? and-
We don't, well, I can tell you, every major builder has adjusted because of COVID and now has work at home opportunities inside.
Okay.
Literally every home, including the wiring and the whatever the infrastructure is needed inside the home. So the answer is yes. I don't have examples of floor plans to show you here tonight, but I can certainly bring them.
The other thing is that, I guess what we've all learned a little bit more, we're by working from home, which may be a more normal than we thought in the future. So it requires us to get outside a little bit more as well. So in terms of amenities, in terms of wider sidewalks or things of that nature, obviously with the parks, you've considered that as well. But
Sure. And we do have, it's not highlighted here, but there's a trail system that goes east-west along that major road and then ties to the south to another park and then to the neighborhood to the south. So you can access the elementary school south just by walking through.
Parks are for big kids too.
Along the east side over there, I'm looking at your map here. Is that representation of a block wall, it looks like, or
I'm sorry, on the east side,
on the east side of the entire thing?
The
over
border.
The border on the east side of the entire project.
so there is on the north of our major east-west access road, there will be a required emergency vehicle access, a road out there.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then to the south of that, as you may be aware, there's a canal right now. And the canal, our proposal is to relocate their canal through our project site. And then on top of the canal, have an open space, passé or walkway. Rather than have it on the back of some lots or in between 2 lots. It's just not a good situation to have a canal with lots backing up to it. So we want to actually route it through the project. Has to be undergrounded anyway, has to be piped. So it works out better if we run it through the project and straight down to where it connects today. And so that those lots will actually back up to the property line south of the mid roadway.
Now, the east side, it's the far eastern side.
Mhm.
On the map we're looking at, it looks like there's some trees or some kind of,
Yeah,
I think that's what the mayor was talking about. Is that going to be like a little walking path?
so those are walnut trees over there on the adjacent property.
It looks like it's maybe the,
Jeff, you can see on the map, on the far right-hand side,
Yeah,
it
okay.
looks like there's trees being depicted there. Is that part of
No,
your
that's actually
landscape?
the access, that's the roadway, the future roadway. It'll always be an emergency access until it turns into a road.
okay.
And then there's trees east of that, the existing walnut trees.
Walnut, like agricultural walnut trees, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then so along the Lacey Boulevard, on the backside of the homes, I'm guessing the block wall there.
Yes, yes,
Now, is it painted block or is it?
We haven't defined that yet, but I can
This
tell
is
you,
do block.
the sound studies will require us to mitigate the impact of the future road noise, not just today, but out years. So block wall is really the only way you can do that effectively. And that will be part of your maintenance of the PMFD. Yeah, the landscaping along the north of that, and along the east side of 18th or Lemoore as well.
So what if you had a demand for greater, larger lots? What would you do?
So you won't know that. You wouldn't know that until you're into the process. But if you did, going to larger lots, I'd like to say it's easier, but it's not. Okay, there is a trade-off that's required under a new law called SB 330, which requires a municipality to maintain the density that you have today. It's all about getting more housing in the community. Once this is in the city and it's locked in terms of zoning and density, then it's difficult to go down. The good news about your zone district here, your residential zone district, I think it's low density RA. Okay, is that it has a range, and all our single family falls within that range. And so we do have some flexibility in there to create new larger lots. So the answer is yes, we could do it, but we've got to watch out and see what happens with SB 330.
Well, one of the reasons I'm asking is that, not necessarily a proponent of larger lots, but I wouldn't bother that. But if you look at some of over the last 10 years, some of the newer developments here, you know, we have a lot of working families here. You know, they can't even get their pickups in their garages anymore, you know. And so when you look at the streets at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, not much room down those streets. They look pretty congested, you know, and quite actually not very attractive at all. And so this is a very high density project. And I'd sure like the staff to be aware of that in terms of how's it going to look 15 years from now?
Sure.
You know, I mean, that's really, and to your credit, Granville's always taken that into consideration. So I look forward to that.
Thank you.
I'm super excited that there's going to be multiple parks in my district now,
Yeah.
so we don't have one for us, so that's awesome.
No, thank you very much. Well, I've got to give a lot of credit to Judy. Okay, we have gone many hours talking about parks and where and how and exactly what's needed. So we're anxious to see this come to reality as well.
I also like the pathways, kind of like out by the college, that little jagged walkway. I really like that too. That's
Okay.
makes it looks nicer.
When, in anticipation of a public hearing, when we come back, we'll have more details on that.
Great.
In fact, I can guarantee you, we're going to get to developing those right away. So if there's questions at public information meetings, we can have those. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. We're always available to talk like this and share what we know about this project. But I can tell you in this month and certainly between now and October, we're going to be hard at it here to bring all the paperwork together and get this done.
Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Your map, if you would like it back.
I would.
Look forward to seeing it.
Okay, so I guess we're adjourned until 7:30. Well, wait, oh, I'm sorry. We can open this for public comment, yeah? Yeah. How about that?
You always have to have public comment. Tom Reed, Moore Avenue, Lemoore, California. I just have kind of one comment. I can think of 3 projects in Lemoore right now that have been approved, and I have not seen any construction going. And I realize this project is going out quite a ways, but you might keep that in mind. We don't want to build a bunch of projects that don't get bought. And then you have a lot of empty houses, which then drives down the price of homes for everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other public comment?
Hi, Jennifer Solis, 757 Redwood Lane. And I was just curious, because I know the initial development to build was in 2022, and it sounds like the paperwork will be done next year. So is that still on track or is that delayed? I was just curious for an update on timeline, I think.
Well, go ahead, yeah. When do you think construction will start on your first zone?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, just in response to the question, our desire is still to start in 2022.
Okay.
Once you have a tentative approval on a track map, you can get to work on what are called the improvement plans and your final track map. And it's another paperwork process with the staff. You cannot sell a lot until you have a recorded final map. You can't sell a home until then, but you can certainly start work on undergrounding and that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
infrastructure.
We do have, I'll just add, we do have a active lease on the property for alfalfa farmer, but that ends at the end of this year. So our idea is to not renew that lease after this year.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Alvarez, do you have any public comment online or anything like that? No? Okay, so I guess, is there any other public comment? Nope. Seeing none, okay, we are adjourned until 7:30. There you go. All right, this is our 7:30 regular session meeting at Lemoore City Council City Chambers at 429 C Street. It is July 6th, 2021. We are going to go ahead and stand for the invocation, and as soon as the invocation is done, please stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, we come before you this evening. We thank you for an opportunity to assemble freely and just seek you and being able to do the business for the city. Lord, I pray for each of minds here that you would give them wisdom, discernment, and just for the citizens of Lemoore, that they would continue to just be taken care of by those who are elected. Lord, pray for our first responders who protect us each and every day. And just thank you for a safe weekend celebrating our freedom this past weekend. Lord, and at this time, we also lift up the family of Dion Jones, just the tragedy that we had to go through as a community. Pray that you would provide for his family, Lord. Also, just to pray that you would continue to heal Jeremy Clymer with the circumstances surrounding that, and that everything would come to fruition in your time to be able to take care of the needs of their families and also the situation at hand with what happened with the tanker, Lord. But ultimately, everything's in your hands, so we continue to seek you, and we give you praise for being a God who holds us through it all, and look forward to how you're going to work in the lives of every person here tonight. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Pastor John. Roll call.
Councilmember Orth,
Here.
Councilmember Gornick, Councilmember Cheney,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Matthews,
Here.
Mayor Lyons.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, so we don't have anything to report on our no closed session, so agenda approval, additions and or deletions. None, okay. Public comment. Public comment will be in accordance with the attached policy. This time is reserved for members of the audience to address the city council on items of interest that are not on the agenda and are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. It is recommended that speakers limit their comments to 3 minutes each, and it's requested that no comments be made during this period on items on the agenda. The council is prohibited by law from taking any action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda. Prior to addressing the council, any handouts for council will be provided to the city clerk for distribution to the council and appropriate staff. So is there any public comments?
Montgomery Park Avenue, Lemoore. I noticed in the paper that the County of Kings is redrawing their district lines for the 2020 census. Do we have a timeline for when we will be doing that for the city of Lemoore?
I think we're determining if we're going to be required to at this point. So staff's aware and we're looking at that, but don't have a definitive answer at this time.
On the golf course, there probably should be something on the golf course website about it being closed. It wouldn't be too nice for people to drive out to Lemoore and say, oh, it's closed. And when it would reopen and when you could schedule a tea time. Also, I've noticed that the new management company has some equipment out there. What is going to happen to the previous equipment that was being used by the golf course?
No, this is public comment.
Okay, so you
I
want
can
to
get with you
answer?
after the meeting.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Is there any other public comment?
Jennifer Solis, 757 Redwood Lane. I just wanted to say thank you, guys. You have had a hell of a couple of weeks, and I just appreciate your continued professionalism. I know I see Patricia on nextdoor.com with me, and her empathy is amazing. The leadership, from Stuart and from Nathan, your communication with the city. I appreciate that the comments that probably the negative comments are getting brought up the most, but there are a lot of positive comments like, thank you, for not going so strict on water restrictions. Thank you, for communicating. And I just wanted to say thank you. And with fireworks, I know it was kind of a crazy weekend. And so I'm hoping maybe we can look into and talk to our other partner cities that are maybe our size and see, is there something that we can change about maybe what we did to help with the aerial fireworks? Because I know dispatch got a few calls from me and quite a few people. So I don't know if there's something that can be done. I know I talked to Stuart today about some different ideas with fireworks, but are there other cities that, do a show, charge for citations? Do they do less days? Do they do more days? And see, kind of compare, did they have the same experience we did? Because we definitely want people to celebrate, but also in a safe manner. And I know the PD last year, maybe it was the year before, did a report about, this is what we dealt with. And so I would love to see I don't know if we have the resources right now to do it, but if the police could do that report and if the fire department could do that report, we could just get kind of that word out, about like, this is what they had to do. This is how many people were on call. This is how many calls that came in. This is how many things were confiscated, all that kind of stuff would be helpful just to kind of continue to educate the public on your efforts, because the staff is doing a ton. So thank you. I appreciate it. We see you. We support you.
Thank you, Ms. Solis. Is there any other public comment?
My name is Paulette Bellamy, and I live at 96 South Byron Drive. And in relation to the fireworks, this year was 2 to 3 times as bad as it has ever been for illegal fireworks. And any way that you can facilitate for the police department or anyone to get that under control. Some people said it came from Nevada. Some people said it came from the Indian reservation. And I don't know where they got them, but there were way more this year. And we have a lot of retired military around here. And I don't think people consider them. There were even comments on there that were on nextdoor.com. Hi, Jennifer. That were people were just like nonchalant about what it could do to a military person that has PTSD. My son's life has been destroyed by PTSD, just destroyed. And that's one of the reasons he didn't want to come. He won't come home. He won't come here for 4th of July or New Year's because of all the stuff that goes on with the fireworks and stuff. And that's really sad. And so anything that can be done to facilitate getting at least the illegals under control. And like Jennifer said, maybe having some big celebration where people can go to that instead of doing so much on their own. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
What was your name again, ma'am?
Paulette Bellamy. I've lived here since 1972.
Bellamy? Bellamy, okay.
I taught in Kettleman City for 35 years while I lived here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Do you have any online? Nope, no more. Okay. So we'll go ahead and move on to ceremonial presentations. Seeing none, we're going to go to the department and city manager reports.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. First up tonight is Chief Kendall.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I know that you guys already have been made aware, but just so the public is aware, last year, we met with Assemblymember Rudy Salas and proposed a project for him to take up to legislature. And I'm happy to announce that we are going to be awarded $2 million to finish our dispatching center. Those funds will be used for items like the radio equipment, the 911 telecommunicative lines, the antennas, repeaters, things of that nature. And we're going to really have a state-of-the-art dispatching center. So thank you.
That's good news.
Great news.
Awesome.
Okay, and I've just got a couple things. So as far as 4th of July goes, we did have 2 fires that I'm aware of that were actually called in. One was a dumpster fire and the other one was a trash can fire. So just people putting their fireworks into the receptacles without letting them properly, cool down. And then PD had no significant calls for service that evening other than the normal stuff, but nothing out of the ordinary. There's an excessive heat warning that's going to take effect Friday night and run through Monday morning. Looking at record highs all throughout the valley this weekend. We're probably going to see sustained temperatures in the mid 100s to 110 this weekend. So be prepared for that. Just to briefly touch base on the $2 million, I'd like to thank Assemblyman Salas and his team for going to bat and getting us those dollars. When I talked to his office, when he called, I said, what was it that got the project approved? And the chief ain't gonna like this, but they said it was the write-up in the project detail. They said it was a submission like they've never received before. Said it was top notch. So chief, thank you for putting forth your best effort and getting us $2 million. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So water, good news on water. We're back up at Station 7 as of this afternoon. We've cleared testing with the state. John and the team and Frank have the boosters online and running. Have chlorination being automated out there currently. So as of 7 o'clock tonight, you can go, but there's no more outdoor watering restrictions. You can go back and resume your normal schedule. We're still asking though that until Thursday morning at 7 a.m., you still do not use don't wash your cars at home. We want to give the system time to get up and running and go through the irrigation cycle. So Thursday morning, everything we put in place will be lifted, including washing of cars in your driveway. And we didn't really announce it much, but we have not been allowing pool drainings and pool companies to plaster pools in this time. So starting Thursday morning, we'll be able to resume with those activities. 15 days and it's back up. I'm real impressed with Frank and the team. You guys did an outstanding job there. So can't say enough. And that's it for updates. Thank you.
Okay, so on to the next, the consent calendar, section 3. Items considered routine in nature are placed on the consent calendar. They will be considered and voted upon in one vote as one item unless a council member or a member of the public requests individual consideration. 3-1, approval of minutes, regular meeting, June 15th, 2021. 3-2, approval of minutes, special meeting, June 28th, 2021. 3-3, approval of the second reading ordinance 2021-04, adopting zoning text amendment 2021-01, and 3-4, approval of a mutual aid agreement between Commander Navy Region Southwest Commanding Officer NAS Lemoore and the City of Lemoore Volunteer Fire Department. So with that being said, is there anyone on council that would like to pull either 3-1 through 3-4?
I'd like to pull 3-3 and 3-4.
Okay. 3.3 and 3.4. Would anyone on council like to pull either 3.1 or 3.2? Seeing not, would anyone in the public like to pull 3.1 or 3.2? Okay, seeing no move, so I will accept a motion from council to accept the calendar, consent calendar 3-1 and 3-2.
Full motion.
Okay, Mrs. Matthews, motion. I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Cheney. So Mrs. Matthews,
Aye.
Mr. Cheney,
Aye.
Mr. Orth,
Aye.
Mr. Gornick.
All right,
I vote aye as well. So 3-1 and 3-2 pass. So 3-3, approval of second reading ordinance 2021-04, adopting zone text amendment 2021-01. So Councilmember Orth, is there something specific you want to bring to the attention on this item?
Well, I really just want to go over it, basically, man, just go over it. As Marissa gets it up.
She's pulling it up now. So
Yeah.
would Steve or Judy like to take this one?
Would you like me to just give a summary of?
Yeah,
those, or-
just give it a summary.
Okay.
So,
So this is a zoning text amendment, so we're amending a portion of the zoning ordinance, specifically the zoning matrix, which is a table that shows which land uses are allowed in which zones. So this is specific to the three cannabis uses that we have in our zoning matrix. So the items in red are the changes. So we're adding, we're making the uses allowed, or in the case where there's a C, conditional use in those zones. So for the cannabis commercial cultivation, it would be allowed in the ag zone and in the heavy industrial zone. Those would be new zones. For cannabis commercial dispensary would be allowed in the heavy industrial zone. And then the cannabis commercial manufacturing, distribution, and or testing, it would be an allowed use in the heavy industrial zone and a conditional use in the professional office zone. So conditional use means that it would need to get a conditional use permit from the planning commission. And that's in addition to the project development agreement that any cannabis use needs from the council.
okay. I'm good.
So does anyone on council have any other questions for 3-3? Seeing none, is there anyone from the public that has any kind of questions for 3-3? Okay, I'll bring it back to council. Looking for a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 2021-04. Is there a motion?
Correction, Mayor, 01.
I'm sorry. Okay. 2021-01. Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 2021-04, adopting zone text amendment 2021-01.
I'll second.
So Mrs. Matthews is a second. So I will vote aye. Mrs. Matthews,
Aye.
Mr. Orth,
No,
Mr. Gornick,
all right.
Mr. Cheney.
No.
3-3 passes. 3-4, approval of a mutual aid agreement between Commander Navy Region Southwest Commanding Officer NAS Lemoore and the City of Lemoore Volunteer Fire Department.
Okay, Chief, you want to come on up for this one? I think Faith actually did the staff report on this one, but this is just renewing our mutual aid agreement with NAS Lemoore. Pretty standard stuff. Is there anything particular we could answer for that for you?
no, just was wondering if there's, is it just a standard
It's basically standard,
Mutual, what you have with Kings
basically,
County
if
and,
they contact us and want some help and we're able to give them help, we help them, and we contact them and they can help us,
They'll
they
come
help
help.
us. Yeah.
so I figured, I just wanted.
It,
help me out there.
I believe the last one they had was 1995, and the fire chief they had several years ago was going through and trying to update everything, and it was kind of like, oh, by the way.
We need to
do this.
refresh this. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Michelle, is that about what you got?
And Chief, nothing changed on it.
No.
Yeah, it was the same one.
Other than the dates.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I figured.
And
I
it's
just-
good, it's good for 10 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And we already have one signed in 2016 with Kings County, and I believe we're in the process of doing it with Hanford City also.
Cool.
Thanks, Chief.
So is there anyone on council with any other questions on this? Seeing none, is there anyone in the public that would like to have a question on that? Okay. Bringing it back to council, I'm looking for a motion to approve the mutual aid agreement between NAS Lemoore and Lemoore Volunteer Fire Department.
Motion.
Okay,
Go ahead,
Mr.
Patty.
Orth. And I need a second,
I'll second.
Mrs. Matthews. So Mr. Orth,
Aye.
Mrs. Matthews,
Aye.
Mr. Gornick,
Aye.
Mr. Cheney.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. 3-4 passes. So moving on to the public hearing, section 4:1. Public hearing, the project development agreement and cannabis regulatory permit between the city of Lemoore and Flavor Fusion LLC. 4-2, public hearing. It's a project development agreement and cannabis regulatory permit between the city of Lemoore and Hold My Beer LLC. Mr. Olson?
So good evening again, Mayor and council members. So I'm going to take these two together, if that's fine. We'll need an independent vote. But the first one, item 4-1, is the project development agreement and cannabis regulatory permit between the city of Lemoore and Flavor Fusion. So Flavor Fusion, better known as Ray's Lemonade. I've been talking about it for some time. We finally got to a process to bring this forth to you. Currently, they have 3 acres in the South Industrial Park. That is right next, just west of the Olin plant on the corner there. So the intent is to build, the first building will be between 23 and 25,000 square feet. And that will house Ray's Lemonade, which is what this is for they're a subsidiary of Flavor Fusion LLC. The reason I'm bringing these two together is because the Hold My Beer LLC, this is really, he's the developer that's going to build the site out. So he's a developer, but he also is part owner in Flavor Fusion or Ray's Lemonade. So for him, the item 4-2 is merely more of a marketing, like a pre-marketing. So if somebody should come in and want to take up one of those other acres that he's currently not using, that he has kind of pre-approved the fees that the city charges for cannabis activity if somebody in cannabis should want to come in there. But it's surely for that. It's to help him market and say here, approval of that project development agreement with Hold My Beer would simply just kind of be a placeholder for our fees, but anybody coming in would still require a PDA to be approved in a regulatory permit as we're doing tonight for Flavor Fusion. So nothing would change there. The current plan right now is to build it and to start manufacturing the lemonade. So it is a cannabis infused lemonade. So typically they buy the oils in a quart jar and use probably about a half a quart for every, say, 500 gallons of lemonade. And then it would get bottled and then distributed into the California network. So that's the opening portion of it. They did include in their PDA delivery and potentially down the road a tasting and consumption lounge. Then they also said they might do just regular lemonades too, to have like a place where people can go get a regular lemonade as well, but that might be down the road. So we're including it in the PDA for efficiency sakes. We have to keep coming back for proposed uses down the road. Flavor Fusion will be, they'll have to pay they'll be a micro business. So there'll be a fee for the micro business license of $12,860 per annum. And then if they do delivery, we would get 5% of gross receipts. Manufacturing is 1% of gross receipts, not to exceed 45,000 per annum, which is right now, the way we're written is we have a flat fee of 45,000 a year with the rest of our cannabis partners, but nobody's really doing any manufacturing at this point in town. So this will really be our first manufacturing position. Distribution, 1% of gross receipt. And if they do a consumption lounge down the road, and it would only be a lounge for their product, for lemonade only. You wouldn't have any other thing going in there. It would have to be their lemonade, would be 5% of gross receipts. Can I answer any maybe directed questions? That was kind of the high level overview.
Yeah, where does it put the restriction on consumption with respect to only their brand?
Because you have to be able to buy the product from the person. It's like if you go downtown. They have a consumption lounge and people go in there and buy a lemonade and drink it, the 5% goes to the city. If they sell it, say to NHC or Valley Pure, and it goes on their shelf in the dispensaries downtown, Rays would pay the city the 1% distribution charge, but then the dispensary that sells it would pay us the 5%.
Okay, that's.
Yeah, so
pretty much
whoever physically sells it to the end user is responsible for the 5% to the city.
back to us.
Back to us. So let's say if they distribute $500,000 worth of lemonade to Southern California, we will see 1% of that sale. We won't see the 5% on the sale end down there. We get the distribution fee out of that.
Distribution, but not the.
Right. We'll only get 5% gross receipts of stuff sold within the city limits of
City
Lemoore.
limits.
Yes.
So
That's the site.
Yeah. So this is the map that I had and it confused earlier. If you look at your map, number 17, that little corner lot, that's the 3-acre site that we're talking about. It's catty corner from base camp.
Yeah.
And as I was saying, the first building is going to be 23 to 25,000 square feet for Raised Lemonade. On the second acre, it's going to be, I believe, a 25 to 30,000 square foot kind of warehouse type building for anybody to lease out. But the intent on that would be as Raised Lemonade grows in the California market, that would be their future expansion, would be that second building. And then on the third acre, it's open right now, but it looks like it's going to be some type of a warehousing building or a build to suit.
So why did we limit ourselves to 1% or $45,000?
To get people here, get them to come. There's other cities that offer 0% on distribution and some are charging 0 on manufacturing. So I wanted to have something attractive to bring businesses to town and something that we could lock in. And what cannabis industries are finding is some cities are giving them like a 0 rate, but they have the right to raise it to 8% over 5 years. And they get in thinking they're getting a good deal, only for the city and staff and then the council members to, once they get in there and invest in their community, to raise the prices up on them. So
how long does this agreement last?
These typically, our PDAs are typically 25-year agreements. They can be revisited and they probably will be as cannabis starts to become more commonly. And if it goes federal, we'll probably have to relook at some of the rules.
Well, why wouldn't we put that in the agreement now? In any event that there's legalization at the federal level or whatever, that $45,000 comes on.
Mr. Martin, you can request whatever you'd like in these PDAs. This is.
Well, I'm just asking a question. I mean, what, we know what happened in the last 5 years in terms of the number of states who've legalized it. And there's obviously some discussion at the federal level. All I'm saying is rather have that discussion now in the agreement that in the event of, and then that clause could be renegotiated.
If you'd like to add that in as a condition of approval, we could absolutely add that in. And then I'd have to see if they're okay with it.
We're not voting on that tonight, correct? We're just voting on
Yeah, we're
being
just-
able to have the public hearing to open it up for public comment and then,
No, this is actually, this is it. If we approve this tonight, they get to go on. We've already, this is the public hearing. The PDA is written, pretty standard with all the other PDAs we have. The only one thing on this PDA that isn't in the other ones is they have 3 murals they want to put on like the side of their buildings. So they're looking for approvals on the murals. They're going to be like ingredients. It'd be like pictures of lemons and things like that. So we were looking for council to go ahead and approve murals. And I think we have a sign here where they want to put the murals and then have them be able to be approved at the staff level as long as they meet all the conditions in our mural ordinance. So that's because what they want to do is change with the seasons and the different times. So we don't want to have to come back every time they want to change the mural, but it can't be for on-site advertising. And it can't be like anything offensive or obnoxious, things like that.
And that's what we're looking at right here.
Yeah, that's kind of the side view. They just,
Is
they
it gonna
want
be
their
the- like
murals
the
are
left
6 foot.
side?
Yep.
It'll be on the left side of it. How big is this building gonna be? 20, you said 25,000?
20, I think it's right at, it's just over 20,000, like 23,000, I believe. They've submitted some renderings, but they're still tweaking them a little bit. So it's going to be, I believe, it's going to be between 20 and 25. I know that. Still haven't received final submittal though.
Well, if this is the final, if we're actually going to vote on this tonight, I mean, I certainly like to at least hear what some of the other council members have to say. I'd like to see us at least put a clause in there that in the event that the federal legislation moves towards legalization, then I'd like to renegotiate that clause. Just that one.
Okay.
The other percentages are fine.
To say what? What would,
But just to take the limit of the 45,000.
to go more, less? Okay, why?
Yeah.
No.
Do some math.
I think that's the about point that he had brought up. And so I would join him in a request for that to be part of it before we vote on this issue.
Yeah, to put it, so in order to hit that max, they'd have to sell $4.5 million worth of lemonade. Possible. I don't think we'll see it in the next couple of years, but it's absolutely possible. I'm hoping they do. Heck, I'm hoping they sell $10 million worth of lemonade. So I have no problem putting that clause in there if that's something that the council would like to see. That's why we're here having the conversation.
Do we know what they sold in Washington?
They are the #1 in their category in Washington, but they keep toying with 1 and 2. But I'd have to go back and look at my notes. I don't know what their case volume is. So California for them is a brand new market. They're starting from scratch.
So it's not unheard of to not sell 10 million.
I don't know. I think that's a lot. It seems like a lot of lemonade. I mean, when I ran the Aguala juice plant, we only did like 6,000 cases of orange juice a year. So
It's going to give new meaning to the lemonade stand in the future.
yeah.
I think it will. And I don't want to, I kind of agree. I don't want to tie our hands that we're only at 45,000. If he sells 10 million or 20 million, I mean, we just shot ourselves in the foot for 20 years.
Well,
No,
the point is,
that's
I
fine.
don't think it's going to happen overnight, but when there's another council around here in 3 or 4 years, at least it's done for them and they can have at it, negotiate if they want to.
Do you see them having a problem with that? I guess is the other question.
You know, they asked for it, so I can't speak for him. I'd have to bring it back to him, you know,
You know,
so,
I mean-
but I can tell you that Dan Kinney, who's the owner, when I first met him, we were one of almost 400 cities in the state of California that he visited. And they chose Lemoore because of the staff we have, of kind of our tax structure, our rate structure. We're pretty attractive in the industry. Now saying that, we do pick our partners pretty selectively. We turn people down on the daily. And, you know, big groups out of like Chicago and places like that, we don't engage because they're just super large scale, don't know them real well. I think we've gotten to a point in our little town where we've got the operators that we have and the land designated and deals in the works like this. So I think we're at the tail end, I think, of growing our cannabis business. There may be one or two more people that have already engaged and bought properties here coming in for small cultivation sites, but I think the brunt of the heavy lifting's done. And I think this one here is probably the least impactful on the community. I mean, people were really nervous about the dispensaries going downtown, and those have worked out well for us. So this literally is no different than a bottling plant, with the exception of if they do get a tasting lounge someday, somebody could roll in and have a glass of lemonade and leave.
What's the likelihood of that happening?
I think not right away, but I think in the next couple of years, you'll probably see them go for it.
Do they have one at their other site?
No. No, I visited their other site. Their other site is up in Washington State. It's out in the middle of the country. It's a building out in the middle of nowhere. It's gorgeous country, but it's out in the middle of
Do
nowhere.
they have the option for it there?
I don't know, because they're doing strictly manufacturing and distribution out of that one manufacturing facility now. And they're building on it. They're expanding it to keep up with demand, but it's not in a big industrial area.
And is this, are they gonna give back to the community kind of like our other operators do?
Yeah, I mean, we only have one person under contract right now that actually put it in writing of kind of what the monetary donation to the city would be.
Mhm.
So out of all the agreements we have in place, only one operator did that. I don't request that of our operators. Typically the people we deal with though want to be accepted in the community. They don't want to come in with a bunch of, you know, backlash from the residents. They want to be a partner with us and grow with us and be good to the community. So I can't speak for them, but you know, the operators we have now, they've been very good when we call on them and ask for help.
How many employees are you gonna employ? Roughly
So the site up there is like 20 people right now.
here?
And this one here, I'm gonna say at least 15 because I'm hoping it's a little more automated than
Automated.
maybe what they have up there right now. But they're going through a big build out up there, and they were building new buildings and new equipment on order. So that operation is completely changing up there. It's really taken off for
Are they gonna require a lot of water?
them. No, just the water for the lemonade.
It looks like a big building, so.
Yeah, it does. Okay. Everybody good on council? You guys got any more questions, concerns? No? So let's go ahead and open it up. So this is gonna be both 4-1 and 4-2 open to the public. So does any member in the public have any comments, questions on 4-1 or 4-2?
Comrade, probably a bit more, just to clarify for me, is there anything in this agreement that would ban the city from negotiating with them in the future to change that $45,000 figure?
No.
Okay, thank you.
So to kind of parlay on his question, we have project development agreements in place, right? They're all pretty much similar. We can't arbitrarily change or add or change fees without coming back to the body. So they would probably have to make a request to the city. City staff would have to look at their request and say, yeah, this is something we want to take, or no, we're not interested.
we'd have that conversation. But if we did want to arbitrarily change something in the terms, it would absolutely have to come back to this body for approval. If it fundamentally changed the terms of the contract.
Is there any other public that has a comment on this? Ms. Avalos, do you have any comment online? No?
I don't know what she's.
Judy,
Oh.
Judy does.
Public, I just wanted to clarify on the murals, you mentioned that there would be 3, that's on the one side of the building.
Well, there's
I
4 on the
believe-
other side.
I believe there might be another couple of them that's not on the screen. I thought I counted 6 on the other, on the front side, and then the side is 3. But there's more than 3, and I just wanted to clarify that so that we don't get a hiccup later.
Thank you, Judy. And the murals go to the ambience of the building and what's going on inside.
And that's what those little squares are.
Yeah, those are gonna be
Supposed
the
to be
murals. So I'm gonna see,
mural-
you're gonna see like, you'll probably see like a bottle of raised lemonade would be like a symbol. You'll probably see some lemons. You'll probably see some passion fruit and different ingredients they use typed into these murals. And it's all about refreshing summertime enjoyment, things like that nature.
How soon break ground?
Well, they've
we
already
approve this
submitted
today.
some plans, so we're going back through. They want to get going. I know they're working with a bank out of Fresno on their funding, so they're pretty much, once we get them through the planning commission. And so we're starting all those processes and just waiting on plan submittals. Once they finalize those, it'll be going. So I would suspect, let's see, you're already in July, maybe end of the year, first part of next year.
Breaking ground
Mhm.
or operational?
Breaking ground. Right now, it's trying to get metal buildings is,
Hard.
yeah, it's really hard. We're trying to help them find some builders that can shore up his timeline a little bit because they want to go. If they could be operational tomorrow, they would be. They're excited to be in Lemoore.
Okay, so we'll bring it back to council. We have to do this on 2 different motions. So I'm looking for a motion to accept 4-1, the public hearing. Well, and hold on. So Mr. Gornick, did you want to have your,
Yeah, my preference is still that we have some statement in there with respect to either reviewing it in 5 years, that one particular option in the project development agreement, 5 years from start of manufacturing, not necessarily from the date of approval of the contract. So it's, it's out there a little bit. Or upon the federal government legalizing marijuana, that is renegotiated. That item is renegotiated. Something like that.
Does the council have a preference which way we go?
What's your thought?
I agree with what he says, but I don't know how to put it into a motion though. I'll be honest
I think
with
it
you.
may be easier to look at it every so many years, because even if it goes federal, to be able to gear up production, sales, distribution, to get things outside of the state.
That's what I was thinking.
That's
if we-
gonna
if we put a- if we-
that won't happen overnight, even if they do legal.
So it'll be easier just to say revisited in 5 years.
And yeah,
5 years from the date of,
Pouring the first lemonade.
yeah, whatever you want to call it,
Okay,
yeah.
and
The first stand.
on the manufacturing side.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll add that in.
5 years from the first date of manufacturing, or from the first manufacturing of the product, we'll revisit that.
Okay.
So is that a good enough a motion for
I know
you,
what you
sir?
As long as it's clear to city staff and.
Clear as mud.
Yeah.
It's clear. I know what he's asking for.
Okay, so I have a motion, I guess. I'm looking for a second.
I'll second.
Mrs. Matthews, so Mr. Gornick, your motion,
Yes.
Mrs. Matthews,
Yes.
Mr. Orth,
Yes.
and Mr. Cheney. Aye. How about I as well? 4-1 passes. So now 4-2, it's basically, we're talking about the same thing, right?
So,
thought
so
it was the same
4-2 really doesn't have a regulatory permit assigned to it. It's really nothing more than a project development agreement that establishes our current fees that they can use as a marketing tool to, if other cannabis people wanted to come in, they could say, look, we've started to pre-negotiate terms with the city. This is where we're at, but you still have to go through and they're gonna have to come with their own PDA, their own approvals. This is more of a marketing employee that the owner asked for.
It's
and
kind of a safety measure.
Yeah. It
Okay.
still has to go through approval for the individual. So let's say
Mr. Gornick wanted to open a Frank's testing lab, he would have to come through and get a PDA. He's not automatically in because of this one, or anybody that might want.
Well, you know,
Frank's
with respect to
Frank's
the,
testing lab.
you mentioned the, yeah, you mentioned the fee structure. Do we have a escalator on our fee structures at all?
No, we do not.
And why don't we?
Because when we started this, we were millions of dollars in the hole.
Which is the reason why we should. have a
Well,
escalator.
no, but if we would have started too high or had those, that's why people are leaving cities. Because they start out at 1% and then they take them to 2% and 3%. Or they
Well-
turn 3% into 5% after they spent their money. And that's why that's why they're coming here, to be honest with you, because how they were treated elsewhere. And once
yeah.
they get in, you start running the price up on them. And I've tried to bring to this council, past and previous, partners that are here for the long term and that we have a long lasting relationship with. Now, I'm not saying we can't revisit these agreements from time to
No,
time,
mine
but
was
to
just a
build them in
question.
now,
in
it's
terms
tough.
of-
'Cause
It's still our cost for servicing those entities increases each year. 'Cause we-
Yeah, like
we
the
have staff and
regulatory
people doing it.
fees we charge, we can change those. Those are subject to change.
Yeah.
Like if the state requirements requires double the man hours and things like that, those are the fees that we can change internally, and that's all part of our master fee schedule. That gets approved whenever we bring master fees to the city. These are more the operational side of their fees, but yeah, if we have to do a lot more, we can absolutely raise the revenue
Okay,
raising
that's
fees on
fine.
them.
That's what I was curious about more than anything. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Okay, so now I'm looking for a motion to accept 4-2 public hearing.
So
On,
moved.
huh?
4-2.
Yeah, 4-2. Oh, that was your, okay. You get that? I'm just making sure that,
He said so move. so-
yeah. That was a motion to approve 4-2.
4-2.
Yeah. So second, I'm looking for a second.
Second,
Mrs. Matthews, so Mr. Gornick,
Yes.
Mrs. Matthews,
yes.
Mr. Orth,
Yes.
Mr. Cheney. I vote aye as well. 4-2 passes.
Thank you,
Okay.
council.
Moving on from public hearing on to new business, 5-1. Report and recommendation, the intention to levy and collect the annual asset assessments with landscaping and lighting maintenance district number 1, LLMD zones 1 through 13, resolution 2021-12, and public facilities maintenance district number 1, PFMD zones 1 through 10, resolution 2021-13. Mrs. Champion, good luck.
Good evening, Mayor and council members.
Yeah. No.
The item we have before you tonight is the first step in the two-step process to continue with the annual assessments and levies for the LLMDs and the PFMDs. You should now have the reports before you. The resolution tonight is just to adopt the intent to move forward with this process. The next step, and it would allow us to set a public hearing at the next council meeting, which is the next step in the process. At that meeting, we will come forward with a detailed report, a presentation explaining what exactly is in these reports and what the assessments are comprised to cover, the benefits and the maps for all the zones. And they will be available online and to the public for the 2 weeks prior to the public hearing. So this is really just,
The meeting before the meeting.
yes, the meeting before the meeting to allow us to have that meeting, basically. But can I answer any general questions at this time?
Yes. The computer screen is not big enough to do justice to this work.
It is a lot of work, yes.
And I mean, I really appreciate the work that they put into this, but it is complicated, you know? The overlaying and so I guess that's just my caution to you is that in doing that, we need some larger display or map or something that can communicate where these districts are in the city. And also, I guess what would be helpful to me, there really wasn't much, is some discussion about the landscaping or stuff that isn't maintained, that is, you know, below our standards, so to speak. You know, I mean, that's the issue. Because I think if some of the residents knew in particular areas that they're, were restrained from making those improvements because of the budget or the assessment, might be able to have better luck.
That
getting
is,
changed.
that is the case for most of our LLMDs. We are locked in at a certain rate. We would have to ballot and go out. We have done that in years
know,
past and
yeah.
it was unsuccessful. Not to say that a future attempt would be unsuccessful, but that would be something we could look at in the future.
Is there ever a chance to, when I was reading some of this stuff, is there ever a chance of doing a larger district or combining it into a, what's that new thing we just approved? Yeah.
PFMDs.
PFMD. In other words, could we combine some zones into PFMDs?
You could try to flip them to a PFMD, but what we're seeing historically is even if we try to raise their rates $35 a year, so like less than $10 a month, they're no voting that. And that's why we haven't had increases in some of our underfunded.
Yeah, I know,
So,
but we can't
but
stop
if you were going to, and we won't, but if you go to a PFMD, now you're talking probably an increase from 135 a year, like in zone A, that would probably somewhere in the realms of $400 a month.
And that would be a ballot vote.
And it'd have to be a
Yes.
ballot vote and you have to get it. The other thing we have asked about is you could do like a community service district, like a CSD or a CFD, and try to engage the whole city into like one big district, but you'd have to get the whole city to vote it in, set up the district, but you would still only have service being done to certain parts of town, not everybody's front of their street, but it would be more for a town beautification. And we've talked about it with the engineers for this report, and still looking at some options on what the possibility of that would be. But the big thing is,
Do the engineers do the math for us? In other words, you know, if you took 3 or 4 of these areas or districts, I don't even know what the heck to call them now.
Zones.
Yeah. If you took 3 or 4 of them together that were substandard in terms of what we needed to do. And if we created a larger district, would there be greater dollars available in a larger district to do some of these things? I don't know.
well, because you can still only, so it's really about the benefit to that existing community. So it'd be tough to combine a district, say that's on Cinnamon and, you know, Lemoore Avenue versus something south of town, because they're completely separate. So there's really the public benefit, the housing benefit, what the benefit that the city should pay for the beautification, because the city pays in to every one of these zones for the public benefit that the city has. I think it's to the tune of like $9,000 or $10,000 a year. I'm going off memory though, so don't quote me on that. But there's some rules governing how these can be set up and how they can be administered. They'd have to have a pretty good nexus to combine zones that right now are separate. They'd almost have to be touching each other, be very close, have a common area, is my understanding, but we can look into that for a
Okay.
future discussion.
That would make sense. They have common area. Yeah.
May I suggest maybe we just have the engineer from Wildan maybe come up for a study session before we do this next year, and that way we can kind of sooner than later, in case we want to maybe look at different directions, so you can have all your
Well, you know,
questions
maybe
answered.
it's something we can look at the League of Cities convention too, in terms of what are some cities doing with this conundrum, because we can't be the only ones. You know?
No, we're
And
not.
it just, you know, the entrances into the cities, that's where we really, we don't look good, you know, in terms of coming into town, different places. Right? All right.
Because like my
Good
zone.
job. Good job. Yeah.
I mean, my zone looks there, I'm looking at, I pay $625 a month or a year. LLMD zone 12 pays $36.50. You know, the cards have been dealt. We have to figure out how to deal the cards differently, I think.
Correct. And the city going forward,
every time we have the opportunity, they'll go into PFMDs. So really what we're dealing with here in the LMDs is all their legacy issues. And we'll try to come up with some solutions for them. But anytime we set up a new residential neighborhood now, they're all going in as PFMDs. And they include the streets, the lighting, you know, they're pretty much all inclusive, and they have the annual inflators. So 20 years from now, another council isn't sitting here going, well, what the hell did they do back in 2021 that we don't have money to maintain this district? We've corrected that. These are just legacy issues from back in the 80s.
And the LMD is the only way we can fix that is the voter box, the voter, correct?
Correct.
Only we have, and that gets done by taking it to the voters for that district to change it from an LMD to a PFMD, or just change how it's calculated.
So, no, I think to change the zone altogether, you'd have to run a brand new, you'd have to create a zone as a PFMD and have them vote that on. And then if it failed, the backdrop would be the LMD they have. Now to run those cost quite a bit of money by the time you do the flyers, the mailers, and meet all the requirements. So anytime we run a hearing for these zones that are severely underfunded anyway, it cuts into the amount of work and that can be done to those zones because we funded out of those zones to go to the voter.
That's LMD, I'm PMFD.
So like I said, the big presentation will come at the next meeting with the public hearing. But for now, is there any other questions I can answer?
Council, no other questions. I'm going to open it to public. Does anyone from the public have any questions on 5-1? Seeing none? Going once, twice? Good. So back to council. So we are looking for a motion to adopt resolution 2021-12, which is basically just the meeting before the meeting.
Motion.
Okay, I got a motion. Now I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Mr. Gornick. So Mr. Orth,
Aye.
Mr. Gornick,
Aye.
Mr. Cheney, Mrs. Matthews.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Congratulations, you get to have your meeting.
Thank you.
Before your meeting.
So now 5-2, report recommendation agreement between the city of Lemoore and Tyler Technologies as for implementation and hosting of the city's new enterprise resource planning, the ERP software, which was a long, fun read. So, Mrs. Spear.
Mayor and council members, this is going to be a long, fun presentation as well.
Oh, are you serious?
No, I'm going to try to be brief. So I'm going to give a brief kind of presentation about what this is all about, but I do have Kyle Johnson from Tyler Technologies is present via Zoom this evening. So if there's specific questions about the particular technology, we can get to that in a moment. During the budget presentation, you all heard me say that we were going to need to purchase new financial software in the coming year. I want to clarify that this is not just financial software. So currently the city operates with a system that has been bought and sold several times just in the 5 years that I've been with the city. And each time that has happened, our customer service has drastically diminished, and the software that we have gets less and less support as these companies that buy it out are developing their own products. We were informed approximately a year ago that our current software will cease to be supported in its entirety by December of 2023. Which sounds like it's a long time away, but it really isn't. It's really right around the corner as far as implementation of a new software. So the city reached out to a couple of different agencies to see which type of software they used. And we determined that we wanted to demo Tyler Technologies. So right now, Tyler Technologies has 149 clients in the state of California and over 2,000 clients nationwide. And they specialize entirely in public service. They don't do private corporations at all. So their system is designed almost exclusively for the type of service that we are providing, government service. And so we did about 8 to 10 hours worth of demonstration with this particular company. Every department head, every mid-level manager, anybody that we thought would need to touch the software was invited to participate. It wasn't mandatory, but they could. And we were shown just about every function and facet of the modules that we were interested in. What's important to note is that currently the city uses our current software, and I'm going to call it Pentimation, but that's not its current name. That's just the contract that we originally procured it under, which was in 1999. I think our most recent upgrade was in 2015. So we are way behind the times as far as the level of technology and services that we can provide. I'm sorry, am I too close to the mic? Is that what you're doing?
No,
Okay.
he's just turned it down a little bit.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so we have the financial software, which does our general ledger, our chart of accounts, and maps all of our financial transactions. But we have ancillary softwares too, like a software for recruitment for HR functions. We have a software for parks and recreation. So they do all the transactions for the payments received for any parks and rec function through a different software. We have something called Dossier right now, which is what we use for all of our fleet management. And there's others that I'm sure I'm forgetting. The problem is that none of these softwares integrate. So what happens is when we do transactions within any of these other offshoot softwares, we have to do a manual import, which obviously increases your chances of human error, but it also makes us inefficient. You're doing the same work twice. So what Tyler Technologies is going to allow us to do is integrate all of those functions into a singular platform. So all of our general ledgers will tie. The transactions that are happening in Parks and Rec will automatically post to their budget units and to their appropriate accounts, and it's going to reduce the redundancy that is required. The other thing this software can do, yes, Mr. Gornick.
You said that all the software in your departments is going to be integrated into the Pentimation product.
No, Tyler Technologies. The software is Munis. Our current software is Pentimation. That's what we want to get away from.
So are we having new software?
Yes, that's what this contract tonight would be for, is for a new software. I just think there's sometimes this misconception that it's only for finance, and it isn't. It's basically going to be for every function of the city government, including human resources. It's going to help us automate our time cards. If you knew the amount of time we spent doing paper time cards and paper time card review right now, I think you would be disappointed would be a good word for it. It's going to make us a lot more efficient. So the city of Lemoore, we had I think in the budget, we had approximately 115 employees. That's not a lot of people to do the amount of work that we do. So anything that we can do to make us more efficient is helpful, not just to us, but to the public. The other thing the software will do for us is allow us to have more community interfacing. So once we're fully integrated, citizens will be able to get online and they'll be able to check their utility bill. They'll be able to see their consumption. They'll be able to run reports on their history of consumption for their water usage. So we get a lot of questions in utility billing right now about how did my bill get created or how much water did I use? It's going to allow them to go into a module and they can actually do graphs that'll show them their peak usage. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity for us to put information out there to the citizens that we aren't currently able to do under our current software. So it's not just for finance. Obviously, the basis of this is the finance portion of this because that's where this all came from. But we want to take every opportunity to make ourselves more transparent to the public and allow them to have more input and interfacing with the services that we provide. Where they will, customers will be able to apply for building permit applications online and track the status of their applications as it moves through the work process. Same thing for the things happening out of Ms. Hallwell's department, community development. They'll be able to submit tentative maps for review and it will get tracked under that process. Right now, we're very parceled in how we function as far as a software component, and a lot of it is still done by hand tracking. And so this software will allow us to be more efficient and to put more information out to the public. The overall contract is about 1.6 million over 5 years. Please don't panic. The amount for fiscal year 22 has already been budgeted. So we received a phased schedule from Tyler Technologies, and I can't give you a specific number about how much it will cost in fiscal year 22. And the reason for that is because we will be billed based on implementation. So we have to implement in phases because we don't have enough staff and resources to implement everything all at once. We would be completely unsuccessful. The implementation process is going to take 2 to 2.5 years. And so we are going to have to go through this basically department by department to make sure that we're effective. And we will go live with those particular departments as they are completed. So we won't have to wait until everything's, integrated before we go live to the public. So It's about 1.6 million. Some of that is contingency that we may or may not need. That contingency is there in case during the implementation phase, the city needs more assistance from Tyler Technology to convert existing data. If we don't need that, we won't use it. That contingency is about $89,000. As we implement, we will be charged those implementation fees, but those are one-time fees. The annual fee is about $225,000, which is more expensive than what we're currently paying. Currently, I think we're about 75, but again, we have much more limited services. What we're getting through our current software company is nothing compared to what we'll get through Tyler Tech. In addition to the demos, Tyler Technology is also part of Sourcewell. So it's a joint powers authority that does all public bidding on behalf of local and government agencies. So this has been publicly bid. It just wasn't publicly bid through us. They're piggybackable contracts. There was a copy of the contract attached in your agenda so that you could reference the contract number. Time is kind of the essence. So I will admit that I was slightly naive in how long I thought it would take to implement a new software. And so when we started getting into this and talking to those individuals that have done this and do this for a living, it's going to take us right up to our deadline with our existing software to get this implemented. So council can decide that you want us to go out to public bid and see if there's another company that would be better for us. Just be aware that in doing so, we will rely on unsupported software for an indefinite length of time in order to get a new company on board and get that implementation process completed. I did check references. I called one particular city up north that just finished the implementation phase with Tyler Technologies. I spoke to a woman who's been in the finance realm and public agencies for over 40 years. She said this was her 5th implementation with the city that she's with currently, and that although there are hiccups, there's been hiccups with every single company she's ever implemented with, but that the customer service from Tyler Tech has been far superior to any of her other experiences. She said twice they used the same company, so this would be her 4th new company, and by far it was the best. She said when they went through this process, they did a formal RFP. They demoed 4 different softwares. Their city is comparable to the size of Lemoore, and she said this was by far the best option for them. And she said that we are welcome, myself and members of our staff are welcome to come to their next implementation meeting as long as it doesn't have anything to do with private data, so that we can see how Tyler's team works. But she was very excited about working with them, and their implementation has gone very, very well. Obviously, other agencies have had difficulty. A lot of that has stemmed from just a lack of staff and a lack of preparedness for implementation. And so the expectation of the agency wasn't realistic in how long it would take and how cumbersome that process would be. I will tell you that our finance staff is excited and cautiously optimistic. We will be doing this implementation if council approves this process at the same time that we're going through our annual audit with our auditors. We know that. And so we're prepared to do what we need to do to get this done with support of our financial consultant and with Tyler Technologies members. Their statement of work, which was attached in your agenda, also kind of describes the relationship between the city and Tyler. The one thing that I really like is that they're very specific in how they want you to structure your implementation teams. So you have to have a project manager that is your point of contact. And so everything flows through the same person so that you don't have parceled conversations and lack of continuity. That was a very big plus for me. Are there any specific questions I can answer? Or I have Kyle on Zoom if you guys have something specific you want to ask him. Yes.
Either you or Kyle, do we have, or do you have from them which departments are going to go first?
Yes, I do have a phased schedule. I did not include that in the agenda because that can change, but we are going to do the general ledger and the chart of accounts first, because that has to occur before any of the other financial transactions can follow. Human capital management, which is the HR function, has to come second because that's the payroll component. So that will have to happen. And then utility billing is our 3rd priority. That's going to allow us to kind of automate our utility billing process. Right now, we contract out with a company called InfoSend who sends out all of our utility bills. We won't have to do that once Tyler Technologies is fully implemented for utility billing. Lastly, we're going to move into community development and parks and recreation and fleet. The reason for that is the softwares they're currently using, or no software at all, aren't affected by the timelines of our current software. And so if we push them toward the end, then it's not going to affect our day-to-day operations if we run a little long.
Second question, or I guess a comment on that response. I'd like to see a report every quarter on what we're doing in terms of the implementation.
Okay,
Because
that's very easily done.
I've been through a number of these and a couple of them have failed. And one of the reasons they fail is because you don't follow the plan. Something gets involved. And with a small staff, I think it's important that you give everybody enough time and space to get the implementation done right. And then we move on to the next person. So-
And I have had several meetings with the implementation team from Tyler and discussed our limitations from a staffing level. Item 5-3 on the agenda is also something related to implementation, so we'll get there in a moment. But we know there's going to be a core group of individuals that are going to have to basically be part of every implementation phase. So we're having to spread it out far enough to give those people enough time to do their regular day jobs plus do the implementation. And that's why we're on like a 2.5-year timeline.
Yeah.
So we're aware, but I agree with you. And yes, coming back quarterly and giving an update is not a problem.
The short answer,
Mhm.
once you break ground, how long until completion?
2.5 years.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Short answer, the billing,
Yes.
the part to implementing the billing side of that where somebody can pay their bill online. I know we can do it, I think now, kind of,
You can through
But-
Paymentus. It's a different software,
kind
but
of.
yeah.
I don't do that, so I don't know. Sorry, but how soon do you see the utility side of that? Because I think that's the biggest argument.
I believe
People
that
wanna-
happens in year 2.
Okay,
But it's also that you could electronically send the bill. You don't have to put it in the mail.
What was that, Mr. Cornick? I'm
You
sorry.
can electronically send the bill. You don't have to put it in the mail.
Kyle, are you online? Is that true?
Kyle?
Help? Kyle, are you there? I don't know the answer to that. I believe that if a client or an end user puts their email in, then we can email a bill, but let me double check on that.
Well, I mean, you
I'll let you
give
know.
people the option.
Yeah, I believe there is
But
the
I mean,
option for
there
that.
Should be multiple options.
There was a lot of information in that 10 hours of demo, and I think that's what I heard.
now, also, you said something about tracking, like, building permits and
Mhm.
stuff. Not only building permits, will you be able to do, let's say I own a business or I want to start a business, I want to move in and I want to start the process of everything I need to do to move into a business downtown. Will that be all trackable to where I can?
Business applications, dog licensing, everything would be automated.
So the business side of it, I'll be able to see if my plans were approved or what I needed to be done. If I
Yes.
forgot to check a box.
You can check a status. And the way I understand it is once the customer interface portal is open, because that's the out-facing side of the software, if you will,
Makes sense.
a citizen can go on and basically create a profile, and it's going to link basically all of their transactions. So they can see their utility bill. They can see when they've requested a building permit. They can see if they did a business license application. They can see if they registered for a recreation program and how much money they paid. So basically, any transaction related to that person would be, they can create a little, like a home screen, a dashboard that will show them all of their independent transactions.
Will they be able to order a trash can
I don't know the answer to that.
with a lock on it?
They will be able to see the master user fee schedule.
Cool.
Yes.
And we won't, this is not stored on our property or our servers. This is in the cloud. Right?
It isn't. It's in the cloud. We did debate that for a brief moment, but in order to have certain functionality for the customer side, we have to be in the cloud. So in order for some of these out-facing client functions to exist, it has to be cloud hosted. It also must be cloud hosted if we want to do certain time card options like geofencing and some of those other things. And so we felt that it was the best option. From a cost perspective, it doesn't cost any more or save us any money. It's about equal. Your implementation fees are a little bit more, or a little bit less, excuse me, but your hosting fees are a little bit more annually. But it ends up kind of being a wash either way, from a financial perspective.
Now, will we be able to geofence? How can I say this properly? Neighborhoods, as in we can look at this neighborhood's using more water compared to this neighborhood.
I can't answer that question specifically, but what I can tell you is the amount of functionality in the software was mind blowing. So I'm sure they can help us get to that point where we can run reports. I mean, the way that you can customize the data right now, the software that we have was probably great 22 years ago when we bought it, but technology has far outpaced it. We can't really customize reports. We can't do the level of investigation that you're talking about. This software has the capability to do much more than what we're currently doing.
And we're pretty sure that this is going to be able to be supported for,
Yes. So again, Tyler Technology has been around for a long time. To my knowledge, they have not been bought out in recent history. They're growing. So like I said, 149 clients in California alone and over 2,000 nationwide. I'll just give you an example. So in 2020 of January, President Trump, actually prior to that, decided he was going to change the W-4 form, which is your deductions form, which didn't sound like a big deal. It was a huge deal. And the software company that we currently use didn't push the update until after the second payroll in January of that year. And so it was a real problem trying to get customer service for them. This particular company pushes updates as soon as the feds honestly, approve things. But they have pre-established reports that will automatically push out your mandatory payroll reporting to the feds, your IRS reports to the feds. I mean, so much of it is automated, and we spend a lot of our time generating those reports now, and it's actually going to save us, I would argue, hundreds of hours a year in man hours for work we currently do.
that was my next question, is this sounds like this technology is going to save us money in the long run.
I
And
think the next 2 years are going to be a very big challenge for staff because this implementation process is not going to be easy. And I don't think any of us are deluded enough to think that it's just going to happen magically. We're prepared to put in the work, but I think once we've gotten to that point and we've implemented, this will be changing, and not just for city staff, but for the public as well. I mean, the amount of information they're going to be able to pull at their own fingertips is going to be, invaluable.
so we'll see the fruits of your
Yes.
guys' labor in 2.5, 3 years, and then
Yeah, ask me 3
As a
years from now how I feel, but
community,
I'm excited.
3 years, I'll still be here.
Are they going to be on site with you or are they going to be remotely?
So when we first started this project, it was in the peak of COVID. And so they were doing a lot of it remote. They have now started to kind of get back into the world. So I think we're going to do a hybrid approach. They'll be here when we need them to be here, but some of it will be done remotely to help kind of facilitate the process.
Good, thank you.
Can you hear me, Michelle?
Oh, he's back. Yeah.
You know what? I was on my phone, and being a technology guy, I should know that I should be on my computer for this.
No, I think I answered the question. I think I got everything answered. So I'm good unless council has more questions. Oh, yes. Kyle, when we are fully integrated and we have the utility billing module up and running, are we going to have the opportunity to send utility bills to customers via email if they elect for it to be done that way?
100%.
There you go. I knew I had heard that in the demo, but I couldn't really remember.
And be able to pay it?
Yes, they can
And
pay
they
it
can
online.
Yeah, they can go to your website. Matter of fact, we have a product called Tyler Payments that any bill, if they want to pay a permit, a utility bill, a general bill, whatever it is, they can go through our payment system.
Sign up for a recreation program. You can pay online.
In Parks and Rec. Yep.
Yep, it's all tied to the same general ledger, so no more double entry. Michelle's very, very excited. Well, I'll be very, very excited in about 2 minutes.
Council, anything else?
You guys asked all my questions, so I'm good.
Okay, so we're going to open it to the public. Anyone from the public? Mr. Reed?
Tom Reed, for Lemoore. Well, and based on a statement that Michelle made, whereby we would save hundreds of hours a year, does that mean that we will be able to reduce staff?
No, they're going to start working on the LLMDs and PFMDs.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate Mr. Reed's question. The problem is that we're currently understaffed. So even in finance, we've lost about 2 positions over the last couple of years that we've chosen not to fill. We currently don't have any HR staff except me, and soon we'll have 1. So we are, how do I say this in a way that doesn't make us sound terrible? We're scraping by every day. Everybody that works here is working incredibly hard and most of us are wearing multiple hats. So anything that we do to make us more efficient doesn't mean that somebody loses their job. It just means that we're going to have more time to focus on other projects that need to get done. To give you an example, there's one personnel report that we have to provide to our RMA every year that takes Linda 40 hours to complete. And that will be significantly reduced with the new software and how we can run reports. And Linda's job is probably one of the most important jobs in the entire city. She keeps your finance department running every day. So even another 20 hours a week is invaluable to us. That's time that she can spend working on other projects.
Is there any other public comment in the room? Seeing none. Is there any public comment online? No? Okay, so seeing none, bring it back to council. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the agreement between City of Lemoore and Tyler Technologies for implementation and hosting of the city's new enterprise resource planning software.
Motion 5-2 as read.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Orth,
Aye.
Mrs. Matthews,
Aye.
Mr. Gornick,
Right.
Mr. Cheney.
Aye.
I guess I'll vote aye as well. So 5-2 passes. You get your non-tangible
We
thing
get
in the
our
cloud.
new thing. Yes, super excited.
Okay, so don't go nowhere because I think you're
I'm
up
not
next.
going anywhere.
5-3, report and recommendation agreement between the City of Lemoore and Price Page and Company for implementation services related to the new enterprise resource planning software. Ms. Spear.
Hi, Mayor and council members.
Hello.
So this is the second half of this project. So we just discussed how long it's going to take to implement and the amount of man hours it's going to take to implement. And so, as you know, we employ Price Page as our financial consultant. They help us with our financial statements, our year-end close process, and they act as our consultants for just day-to-day questions and best practices. We have to redo our entire chart of accounts. And so to kind of give you a perspective of what that is, every fund, every account, every budget unit that's listed in the budget has to be completely redone when we move over to this software. And that is a huge undertaking. It's not something that city staff has the time and frankly, the experience to do and do well. So this is a one-time $50,000 contract for Price Page to assist the city in implementation of the new software. So this is for the implementation of the software as a whole. Not only are they going to help us redo our chart of accounts, which has to be done, that's phase one, that's your general ledger. They're also going to help us establish internal controls so that we meet audit parameters and we can better utilize the staff and functionality of the software to help us ensure that we are protecting the public's money. So for instance, as a payroll function, I'll just give you an example. You can't have the same set of hands that checks the time card, enters the time card, checks the payroll, and issues the check, because then there's no systems of checks and balances. So we have a system that we use right now that makes sure that 3 separate hands touch that process. It's very lengthy and it takes a lot of time. Price Page wants to come online and help us evaluate who should have access to which modules for specific functions to increase efficiency, but also ensure that you don't have a 2 people that have the same access to the same module that can affect monetary change. Does that make sense? That way, when the auditors come in and audit our internal controls, we can tell them that not only do we have a process in place for our physical manipulation of documents, but from a software perspective, we're using that software to help us remain accountable for transactions that occur on a daily basis. So again, Price Page has a group of about 4 to 6 members that help us with our process. So that's 4 to 6 additional sets of hands that are going to be able to help us implement this and hopefully make this implementation successful.
Are you done? I'm sorry.
I gave you the brief answer.
Yes, that's what does council have any questions? No? Are you thinking, Mr. Orth? I was waiting for you. I thought you had a question.
When do they expect to start?
So Tyler Technologies will begin implementation in September. So between now and September, Price Page and city staff will be working to change our entire chart of accounts, and it will take us a significant length of time to do that. It'll take days of in-person work going through every single account to make sure it gets moved where it needs to go. So immediately is a short answer.
Good luck.
Thank you.
So council, no more. Public, does anyone from the public have anything on 5-3? None? Okay, I'm gonna bring it back to council, and we're looking for a motion to approve the agreement between the city of Lemoore and Price Page and Company for their services related to ERP implementation, and authorize the city manager or designee to execute all related documentation.
Motion to approve 5-3.
You're supposed to say all that, you know.
You just said.
I know. All right.
Well, there's one item in there. It says city manager or designee.
Yeah, so
So who's a designee?
if I'm out of the office or unavailable, that would be Miss Spear, or if for some reason we're both out and whoever we leave as the acting city manager to be able to execute that.
Okay, but in terms of the point person for this project, who
Me.
is it?
That's
You?
Michelle.
Her.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that was a typo to put the city manager on there. No, I'm kidding.
We can
Did you
change
get a
the motion.
second?
We have a
We
motion.
have a
I'm
motion
looking
to
for a
accept
second.
5-3.
Who is
as
the
read.
second?
Second.
Okay, so Mr. Orth,
Aye.
Mrs. Matthews,
Aye.
Mr. Gornick,
Aye.
Mr. Cheney.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. 5-3 passes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so on to brief city council reports and requests.
I object.
You object
To brief.
for the brief?
Brief.
I'm just reading it
I
as
just want to
written.
know where that is in the law.
I'm not saying it's law. I'm just reading what's wrote. So we're gonna start it off with Mr. Orth. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, hold on.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came in late. We started our, what did we do tonight? We had our meeting at the fire department. One thing, I'll make this quick because I know everybody wants to go. Hold My Beer, where they're building, that is where our helicopter pad is.
Training
I have-
site.
Yes, training site. I have talked to Dan with Hold My Beer. Is that right? Dan or Don?
Dan
I've
Keenan.
talked to him. He says there's no way we can leave it there because they've got to utilize all that ground. But he did make the offer that if we can find someplace close to that, as in next door, I believe, is the city on that dirt to the north of that?
No, that is owned by Tom Voorhees.
Okay. Well, anyway, Dan has offered to, while they're doing pouring their asphalt and everything else, to build us a new pad if we can find someplace.
Training site.
there. Training site, sorry, yes. We do use that quite often. You know, we'll go for a week or so and not use it, but City of Kalinga uses it with the helicopter when they
Do
you know,
training.
go in
Sorry,
Yes,
Bruce.
in training, I
Stuart,
know,
can you
that's
talk?
the
So we
word-
get out of
that's the
here?
word I need to use.
Yes.
It's
Can the
hard
chief
not-
talk, please?
Yeah, trust me,
Yeah, thank
he
you.
wants me to help him with this.
Yeah, that part.
I
of
can
it.
tell.
But Kings County uses our training site. Everybody uses it. And it'd be nice if we could find a home for it. And again, they've offered if we can find a place to place it, that they would be more than happy to build it for us.
Okay.
And so I don't know if there's any city property out there that we could, all we need is a quarter acre, basically.
Yeah, there's.
You know,
we'll
I know
find-
you and
we'll find you a spot.
you and I have talked about it
Yeah.
before.
We'll find you a spot.
Yeah, so anyway, also, on the other hand,
training.
I don't know if Stuart's talked about this or not, but I know something was mentioned the last time I was here. July 24th is our deal in the park. You said, Nathan, sorry, you said you're going to turn the water back on Thursday, so will the park be nice and green by then?
Yes. Actually, water's going back on for outdoor watering tonight as
Okay,
of 7
great.
o'clock.
I don't know if you guys have seen this flyer or not, but it is July 24th down at the park. We are going to have water slides. Sheila Taylor with Rick has really stepped up and gone out of the way to put stuff together for us and all that. But we'd just like to invite everybody out. It's probably going to be another 115 degrees. Come out. We'll be more than happy to get all of you guys wet.
I heard you guys are selling shirts too through
Yeah,
Pig.
yes, through Pig. I
Did I say
believe
that
they're
right?
on they're on our Facebook page.
So go out and buy shirts.
Yeah, everybody always says they don't make any money out of it. I think we're taking $1 out of it for the fire department. I believe they're $19.95. I think I've just glanced at them, but my wife has told me do not bring any more fire shirts. So anyway, that's it. Thank
Do you
you.
know how long the lead out is? Do they have them available right there? Someone walks in, puts the money down.
To be honest with you, I don't know.
They don't.
They don't have them available?
No.
So they're making,
But they are making them. I
Yeah.
actually was there today and I saw a few of
You
them.
can go in and order them.
okay.
I know that the committee forwarded to me, like, say, do you approve? And I approve. And I haven't seen any of the guys since then. That was just a couple of days ago. So anyway, that's it. Thanks, you guys and gals.
Thank you.
Brief.
Yeah, back to you, Mr. Orth, after Chief derailed.
Okay, I'd like to start off by giving a huge shout out to the city water department and everybody, the police, the fire, everyone that was involved in the incident that happened a couple of weeks ago. You guys showed your pride. We did good. You guys did good. I want to do a shout out to the family of the Jones family who lost his life in the accident. I'd also do the prayers for Jeremy for a speedy recovery. And my understanding is all the department heads got together for this emergency, and you guys did good. Made us proud. That's all.
Mr. Gornick.
I can only second that. It was very heartwarming to see everybody kind of pull together and focus on bringing us back as quickly as we did. I want to particularly compliment our city manager for his work and keeping us abreast of what was going on. And thank you again. That's what makes us differentiate us from other cities. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gornick. Mr. Cheney.
Just thank everybody for their hard work during these past couple of weeks. And I appreciate all the presentations tonight, all the people that spent a lot of time and put a lot of effort into presenting various items tonight. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mrs. Matthews.
I too want to echo my thanks to all the city employees and contractors involved in helping get our well 7 back online. It was incredible, just the amount of work that was put into it and people coming together and getting things done in record time. So thank you all. Also, my condolences again to Deon Jones's family. I can't even imagine their loss. To report out from KWRA, it looks like we're going to put out an RFP to see about privatizing the operation of the facility. So we'll see how that goes. Final budget approval will be on July 28th at the next board meeting. The 4th of July 3K and 5K with the kids parade looked well attended. I'm so sorry that I missed out on that event. It looked awesome. I also had in my notes the 100-year anniversary for Lemoore Volunteer Fire Department coming up and the fundraiser for them selling t-shirts through PIG. You can order online or at the shop. You won't get it any faster either way that you order. I did inquire. So it'll take the same amount of time whether you go in person to the shop and order or if you order online. If you order online, you can get it shipped to your house or you can pick up at the shop. Just a reminder that Lemoore Stadium Cinema is open. Also wanted to give a shout out to Grocery Outlet. They're doing Independence from Hunger again for the 2nd year with Lemoore Christian Aid. Their goal is to reach 10,000 this year. It's their Give 5, Get 5, and it's all month long in the month of July. Thank you, David and Karen, for all you do for this community. And also this Saturday at 4 PM at the Veterans Park, there's a Fur-a-Palooza benefiting Valley Animal Haven. It's a benefit concert featuring some local bands, Life Jacket, Mindless Society, Junk Mail, and Out of the Ring. And I believe 2 of those are actually in my district, and I hear them often, and they're pretty good. So go check them out.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Matthews. So she actually touched on everything I was going to say. She took all my stuff, but the one thing she didn't touch, Mr. Reed, earlier in the evening under public comment, I didn't allow it to turn into a conversation. You had a question. Was it regarding the golf course, I believe? Is that what it was? And I'd also kind of wanted just to kind of touch real quick. So Mr. Hanson, Jim Hanson, he reached out to me, I think all of us, as a matter of fact. And Nathan, I think it was said that the new management of the golf course, they're going to honor people that bought a year's worth or the whole year's worth of play.
Yes, originally we were going to do refunds for those individuals that were purchased out past July 1. But all I was able to obtain was a name and the amount, no addresses, phone numbers to get in touch with anybody. So the new company, Sarah Golf, will track that with what we have. And basically, they will honor that towards whatever their fees when they reopen would be as a credit. And then to Mr. Reed's question earlier on equipment, there is some equipment there they're interested in. There's some that there isn't. So once we'll kind of come up with what they're going to buy in the terms and the price, and then we'll balance out the books as we go through those purchases and the transitions of existing inventories.
And there has also been a few questions to me personally about the golf carts, whether they're going to sell them or add more to it. And I believe you told me that they were going to keep the current ones and add more inventory.
Yes,
Correct?
last conversation, they're assuming our lease and adding an additional 15 carts.
Okay, so I just wanted to kind of get that information out there. Mr. Reed, I apologize. I wasn't trying to, cut you off or anything like that. I didn't want to have a conversation under public comment. And also to the Jones family, I can't say how sorry I am. I was out there that day. It was, a very tough situation for the entire city. And I think that we showed resilience and, we dealt with it is the best we could, the best I think anyone could have. We've had a lot of things going on lately, and it really, I feel like we say this constantly. It feels like, we're coming into some bright days, or at least that's my hope. And all the staff for the city has been doing an exceptional job. Mr. Rivera, chief, both chiefs were sitting here tonight. Mrs. Champion, Mrs. Spear, Mr. Reed, you too, man. You're an outstanding person. Your questions just rivet me. And Mrs. Solis, she's our unofficial voice out there. Because trust me, we read all those next door things, and it all comes around. So everybody's doing a good job, and keep doing a good job. We're adjourned.